Welcome to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Sean, and today we are counting down expansions, and we're going to be going through our top 10 favorite expansions of all time.
And this is a combined list that we made together, and the expansions were chosen for different reasons. Sometimes they fixed a game, sometimes they introduced new ways of playing, but let's just get right into it.
Number 10 is Scythe Rise of Fenris. And Scythe Rise of Fenris was the first time that I had seen an expansion add a campaign to a game. I've seen it a few times since, and maybe it happened before, but it's the first time I saw it, especially like this, because Rise of Fenris is this big box full of awesome, fun little boxes, and all those little boxes are packed with stuff. And as you go through, you open up all these things that are also going to be able to be used as modules in later games. So if you want, you can just open it up, play through it once, then use those modules and play it normal. Or you can do like us and pack it all back up perfectly again and then play it all the way through again with some friends, then pack it all up and then play all the way through it again, because it's actually pretty interesting. The story, story-wise, is pretty interesting. It branches in neat ways, and it's just really replayable, and that's our number 10.
Our number 9 is Orleans Invasion, and this is definitely very modular. It introduces different ways of playing. So there are different solo modes you can play. There's also a dual version you can play, but the best part, in my opinion, is the cooperative version. And it plays pretty similarly to like the base game of Orleans, but you have all these objectives that you have to keep accomplishing. And it can be quite a challenge. I think it took us a while before we won our first game, but it was definitely worth the challenge, and it's my favorite way of playing it. And it's our number 9.
Number 8 is Dune Rise of Ix. And Dune Rise of Ix feels like one of those kind of necessary upgrades. It's like a necessary expansion. And what it does, first of all, it fixes the top part of the board. And I'm just talking about Dune Imperium. Forget about Dune Uprising. We've only played it once, so I don't have a great handle on it yet. But for Dune Imperium, fixes the top part of the board. It adds this awesome little shipping track that gains you a lot of cool stuff with the spice and works a lot better than the original top right-hand side. It also gives you these tech tiles that give you these really cool bonuses. They work a little bit like the sneaky cards, but not so sneaky, but a bit more powerful. And these dreadnoughts that were kind of like the first shot at the worms, and I think work really well as well. And I know this might be an unpopular opinion, but for me still, Dune Imperium with all of its expansions is my favorite way to play Dune. And Rise of Ix is my favorite of the expansions, and that is why it's our number 8.
Our number 7 is Viticulture Tuscany, and this is an expansion that fixes the base game. When we played Viticulture, we liked it, but we didn't love it. And I think part of that is at the 2-player game and only having the 2 seasons, it felt really restrictive of what you could do because everything has to happen in order. Whereas for Tuscany, because it introduces 2 more seasons and you get to use those cards more and it gives you more types of cards that you can use, all of a sudden it felt like there were just more options that you could do, and you didn't absolutely have to do each of those spots in exactly the right order to be able to win. And since then, we've really enjoyed playing Viticulture a lot more. I'd recommend for anyone who gets Viticulture to not even play really until they get the Tuscany expansion.
Number 6 is Flamme Rouge Peloton. And I know this is a little bit of a deep cut compared to all the ones we had before this were kind of like big superstar games. This one, not quite as much, but it should be, because Flamme Rouge is still my favorite racing game. And Peloton does the amazing thing of both making this play for more players and making it better for less players. So it adds 2 different racers that you can play at 5 and 6. But it also adds a really solid 2-player mode where it adds these bots that are it's amazing how simple they are, but how well they work. And it adds these bots that you can race against. They work super well, and it adds different road types. You got cobblestones, you got paths that shrink and raise as they go, and just all sorts of stuff. And it's a game we love. And I am hoping for even more expansions for this one in the future, but for now, we got Peloton, and it's pretty great, and it's our number 6.
Our number 5 is Root, and Root has a ton of expansions, and we weren't in agreement about which one was our favorite, so we're lumping them both here in number 5. My favorite one is the Hirelings expansion. I find it makes it a lot more playable at 2 players because it's these great little critters that come out, and first they act as like NPCs on the board, just kind of taking up spaces, but eventually you're able to get them temporarily on your side. And what I really like is if you are further behind, you get to use them longer, so it gives you a little bit of a catch-up mechanic. And you like Root a lot more than me, but with the hirelings, I'm a lot more likely to get it out and play it.
And I like the hirelings, but I was arguing for the Underworld expansion, and that's because it's got 2 of my favorite factions. It's got the Duchy, who are these moles. They're super strong, and they help the game at 2 as well because they got a lot of reach. And the Corvids, who might be my absolute favorite ones to play. I really like setting their little traps. And it's got another board. And that is my favorite board, especially the side with the dock and the river and the moving around, but both sides of it are great. And I really like that, but so many good Root expansions. Our number 4 is Terraforming Mars Preludes. And this one, it's genius. It's a tiny little box. It's not that much stuff. But what they've done is they realized everyone was saying, you know what, this game takes 5 turns to ramp up and really get fun. And they was just like, you know what, let's just start there. Let's just start on like turn 5 or turn 6 and have all that stuff ready to go. So you start with a bunch of other stuff. You start with another special power, and you hit the ground running, and the game's immediately interesting and immediately fun. And I don't know anyone who owns Terraforming Mars and doesn't own this expansion, and I don't know anyone who would play without it. I've never heard someone be like, oh, I tried it once, not for me. I like just kind of slowly warming up. And so many games have copied this idea now too, because it's just a really, really smart idea. I don't know if they're the first ones to do it, but they're the first ones on our radar to do it, and boy did they do it well, and that's why it's our number 4.
Our number 3 is Everdell, and we weren't in agreement about which one we thought was the best. So I'm going to be talking about New Leaf. What I like about New Leaf is you just score a bunch more points. It gives you these like passenger cards that you're aiming towards, that if you have like leftover stuff at the end, you can get extra points from that. It lets you use this ticket option so that you can get things for like bring a worker back. You can also spend a 1 less resource in some of your cards. I feel like if you really like Everdell and doing a lot, New Leaf just lets you do more and score more.
Yeah, and I like New Leaf, but I still maintain that Belfair is the best expansion. And what I love about Belfair is, and I generally like this in expansion, it doesn't do too much, but it does enough that it fixes all the problems and adds a little bit extra. So the main thing it does is get rid of those terrible goals from the original base game, puts in way better, more interesting, more doable, more racing towardsable goals. And then it also adds this other board that just gives you a few more options, but not too many more options, but just a nice amount of more options, and gets the tree out of the way, because the tree's a little bit of a pain in the butt, and it adds this just better section and this better board. And I just think every single thing that Belfair does, it does it just super well. And it also adds the player powers. And the player powers are one of my favorite things in Everdell, and that makes it our number 3.
Our number 2 is Unmatched Tales to Amaze, which takes Unmatched but makes it cooperative. So instead of fighting against each other, you're fighting against one of 2 different bad guys. And we love Unmatched. We have a whole bunch of different characters, basically like everything except for the Marvel stuff. And that's just because we have like a whole bunch of
we got
other
a lot
Marvel
of
stuff.
We got Marvel covered.
And so we've been doing like tournaments, and we've been playing a lot of Unmatched. And I think like after a bit, we kind of had played too much of it, and then getting this version and meaning we can work together, it's been really great to pull out these characters, especially some of the ones that I didn't feel were as strong when I was playing like one-on-one. Some of them do really shine against some of these 2 different bad guys. So I'd be interested in seeing other cooperative bad guys to fight against too. And I think it just does such a great job of making us play it more.
Yeah, I love the two bad guys as well. They're both real, especially the UFOs, but they both look really cool. And we got these because we got it at Essen. We got these little extra bits when I bought this one, and I really like that. We got little alien guys and little bug guys. I think it just adds a little bit to it, makes me like it even more. But yeah, I would love to see more unmatched, more different kinds of tales to amaze. But that is our number 2. And number 1 is A Feast for Odin, the Norwegians. And we really bounced around with these top few. We really bounced around with all 10 of these. But A Feast for Odin, the Norwegians, this is just, it's like the perfect expansion. Because I love Feast for Odin. I know I had to kind of win you over a bit. But the Norwegians really helped me with that because it takes all of those. It's got that huge board, as you know if you played Feast for Odin, with all sorts of, there's so many worker spaces. But it takes it, and I feel like it just tweaks those avenues a little bit, and it makes all of those avenues now feel like they're all possible and they're all ways to win. They've got animal husbandry works now, hunting works now, sailing always really worked. Just that, like getting the special treasures off of the boards. All of those are a way to actually get points, and it brings the cards into it so much more. And that, I think, is, well, it's one of the places it really shines. It shines in a lot of places, but that last worker space where you're always playing a card, but even the other spaces that just bring a lot more cards into the game, because the cards are a really great part of this game, but unless you were really good at it and you really knew what you were doing, and I'm not, it didn't really shine in the base game, but this makes it way better.
Yeah, and it makes it better for 2 players as well because you can flip the board and make it a 2-player version, which means there's fewer spots and tightens it up a lot too. But my favorite part really is that last column of what to do when you only have like your one last worker. You just get more things, and it's such a tight game that I really like that action being so strong.
Yeah, and also the extra little houses, the extra little house boards, because doing the extra boards is always so much fun. Doing the islands is like my favorite. It's everyone's favorite part. It's like the best part. But doing the islands and then also doing all these different extra houses and how you can combo those, and you get asymmetric houses to start it off. This is so much stuff. This is like a whole Feast for Odin worth of stuff that you're adding to this already enormous and awesome game. It just makes this game that I think is the ultimate sandbox worker placement game into the even more ultimate sandbox. There's so much sand in this box. Hayden Christensen would hate this box. And that is our number 1. And that is it. That is our top 10 favorite expansions. We could have easily done a top 20. I just didn't want to edit it, but there was like Marvel Champions, the new Lost Ruins of Arnak one, the stuff from Ultimate Railroads, and
Village, Arc Nova. There are tons of great expansions out there. So please let us know in the comments what your favorite expansion is. And please like, subscribe, feel free to check out our Patreon, and hopefully we'll see you next time for another game.